What if I told you school is a lie? And yeah, education's important, knowledge matters, all of it. I understand that, obviously. But the way these schools are designed, it's not for your growth. It's for control. And let's rip the mask off. This system we're all shoved into started back in Prussia. In 1763, that year, King Frederick the Great passed a law called the General School Regulation, written largely by Julius Hecker, and it forced kids, boys and girls, into state-run schools from ages 5 to 14. It became one of the first tax-funded government-controlled school systems in the entire world. But here's the key. It wasn't purely about helping kids to learn. It was about creating obedient soldiers and compliant citizens. Think about that. And Prussia had just witnessed how individual thinking and personal conviction, like what happened during the Napoleonic Wars, could disrupt armies and challenge authorities. They needed a system that could crush individuality and train people to obey orders without really thinking for themselves. And it worked, which unfortunately it did. And by the 1830s, that machine was running full speed. School became mandatory for every single social class, funded by taxes. Kids were grouped by age instead of actual ability. Teachers were trained in state-run seminaries, taught not just to educate, but to maintain social order. And the curriculum was rigid. Religion, civic duty, music, basic academics, all carefully controlled by the state. And there were regular inspections and rigorous exams to make sure that teachers and students stayed in line in schools. And they weren't designed to create thinkers. They were literally designed to create people who would follow rules, respect authority, and fit into their assigned slot in society. And then in 1843, Horace Mann from the United States took a trip to Prussia, and he was blown away by how perfectly controlled their system was. And he came back to Massachusetts and praised the Prussian system as a model for how to unify people and to improve morality and maintain social order. And in his 12th annual report in 1848, Horace Mann wrote about how Prussian schools swiftly removed teachers who were incompetent or unfaithful, praising the way the state maintained strict control. And to Mann, this was a sign of progress and efficiency. That's how by the late 1800s, nearly every American kid was trapped in the exact same system. They were grouped into age cohorts, herded around by bells, sorted by grades, and ruled by centralized government control. Local community-run schools began to completely fade away, and education turned into a giant bureaucracy. But here's the cold truth about it. The Prussian model wasn't ever built to set you free. Complete opposite, actually. It was designed to produce citizens who would follow orders and don't question authority. And at its core, it's a factory. Think about it. Like standardized lessons where every single kid learns the same thing at the same time, regardless of personal interest or talent. And teachers lecturing kids like bosses, lecturing workers, and the bells ringing like a factory, shift changes. And students judged by grades, a system designed to rank and sort people rather than nurture curiosity or creativity. The entire model values compliance over creativity, uniformity over personal growth, testing over genuine curiosity. And Prussian philosopher Johann Gottlieb Fish, I can't even say that, famously said that education should aim at destroying free will so that students would be incapable of thinking or acting differently from how their schoolmasters wanted them to think. And that's nowhere near a conspiracy theory. That mindset shaped the entire educational system exported around the world. You can look into all of this. These are facts that I'm putting out right now. And the elites back then admitted it outright. Only the top were taught to truly think, like the actual rich and the future leaders, bureaucrats and policymakers. Everybody else was trained to simply obey and fill predictable roles in society. And that's how it is today. Guess what? That's exactly how it crushes critical thinking and creativity today, the exact same way as I just said. Look around, kids memorize facts for standardized tests instead of learning how to solve real world problems. Schools focus on regurgitating information rather than fostering independent thought. And then art, music, and creative subjects are the first thing cut when budgets shrink. The first thing. And students are rarely ever taught how to manage money and how to negotiate, how to build businesses, or actually how to understand these systems of power and how they really work. Instead, they're taught to follow instructions or wait for permission and to accept their place without ever being capable of thinking differently. And it's no accident. It's purely by design. Even the structure of the school today mirrors industrial work. Arrive at a certain time, follow the schedule, ask for permission to speak into work until the bell rings, then go home exhausted. It's no coincidence that many modern industrialists in the 19th and the early 20th centuries, like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan, heavily funded public education. People think Rockefeller created it. He didn't. He funded it. And they wanted a workforce that was literate enough to run machines, but not so independent that they would question the economic order. Like I said, Rockefeller, he literally quoted, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers." And the Education Board openly stated in 1906, occasional paper number 1, "In our dreams, people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands, and we shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or science. The task is simple. We will organize children and teach them to do in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way, if you didn't hear me." And that's not freedom. And that was a quote. That's programming. People think they're free, but they're not. They've been programmed from day one how to stay in line and to shut up and do what they're told. And that's just the beginning of how deep that this control even goes. Like, most people will never see it because they've literally have been trained not to see it. But I do, and I'm going to keep talking because this world was built to keep you small, and I refuse to stay silent about it. And I appreciate anyone giving me their time, seriously. If you want to learn more about the world around you, just feel free to follow. I will speak a lot more on these kinds of subjects. And thank you for your time once again.